What is going on, everyone? It is David Palmer King, and welcome to your inspirational astrology horoscope for this solar eclipse, new moon in Libra. I'm covering this for this 13th and 14th of 2023. Here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Awesome again to have you here. And this is, I know that as a light worker, when I see other light workers feeling the same energy, that, that whether it's myself individually or us as a collective, we're doing the work. We all know there's something very off and also at the same time very awakening at the same time. I want to give some love out there to a fellow astrologer, Brasha Goldsmith. She's been out doing this just as long as I have on YouTube, and I just want to send her tons of love. She has been such a huge positive collective force, and she's going to have a surgery, and she's going to be off for quite a while. I just found out and watched her video, and it was really touching. And, she is somebody who truly is somebody who's very spiritual, loving, and totally tapped in. And she's tapped in on the highest of all realms. And so, I hope everybody out there sends their prayers to her, goes to her page, sends all the love that you can to her. There, of course, are lots of people out there that do this work, but she's definitely one of those extremely special stars out there. So it's sad to see, one of our fellow light workers out there doing the work. I could feel it in her. She never would stop. And I don't feel like she is going to stop. She's going to be still doing the work out there, just in other ways, while she goes through this. I also am on this Friday the 13th, tonight, here at the High Vibe TV studios, will be doing Battle of the Gods. I'm sure you watched the intro to this. I did Battle of the Gods Part 1 in the summer of 2020, and it was very much geared towards war and what to expect in these 2020s. I did all the research. It was a 4.5-hour lecture about the Mars retrogrades that had happened in Aries throughout the last couple thousand years. Just that's all. And did everything I could to find a common historical reoccurrence, which had led me to the Apostle Paul and the weird things in Jerusalem. Now, this lecture that I'm going to be doing tonight is not what you think. It's not some traditional, he's just going to give me info of how to get through a war, and it's going to be playing on the energies of what's happening here in the last week. There's way more to look at. And this is not about sides. This is so much more, and this is about stuff that has been talked about. But really, every lecture I've done since 2016, Age of Deception, Rising Through the Darkness, there's so many of them in order. I'm trying to go in the order of years and so forth, but it's like Era of Providence, the turning point in relationships, your 2020 survival, shattered reality, purgatory. Of course, if you see me on tour, if you see me at Conscious Life Expo or any of these other places, this is all of those combined into this big show moment here. And I'm honestly keeping it a mystery for people because it's only for those that are really called. You have to face fear. Or you could sit behind and not want to face it. And I'm facing the fear of putting out the most sensitive information out there, and I always call things for what it is. But even in Battle of the Gods 1, there was not only just weird events that happened to make that hard to do, but it also was me fully afraid to drop the truth all the way on people. So this is for those that want the truth when it comes to what's really been going on, and more importantly, what do you think Saturn Pluto was really about, connecting it to every transit that we've been going through. And it's also a lecture that will teach you a form of astrology that has been not talked about and has been lost for almost 800 years. And it has so many surprises in it and things that I've been holding in for a long time. So it's like, after what I saw in this last weekend, I literally, the manifesting generator in me was just like, gotta do this now. And that's why it's called Red Alert Part 2. If you feel called to it, it's at 7 p.m. Pacific tonight. Of course, you can watch it live. I just have been setting up the whole stage, the lecture. And you know how we do it here at High Vibe. You can watch it on the apps. It's the highest quality. But more importantly, the info is going to be straight fire. And on top of that, all you have to do is purchase it on the website or be a subscriber to the premium subscription on highvibe.tv, and then log in through your apps. And that's on all apps. So I appreciate all the support, and would love to have you as a subscriber on High Vibe. And I appreciate all the support through all these years here on YouTube. Although even with what's continuing, but what's coming down the pipe here, you know, I'll always keep putting stuff out, but who knows how much longer we all really do have these spaces. That's why this space was built. And let's talk about this eclipse. All right. We are at eclipse time. We are at eclipse time. So I hope you guys are all doing wonderful. Now, on this Friday before the 13th, so before the 14th, but this Friday the 13th is the same October, Friday the 13th, that was the Friday the 13th of 1307, of why people have such stigmas or curses attached to it. Of course, it was a brutal day for the Knights Templar that were killed, which even makes things weirder with the situations that you're seeing in the Middle East right now. But we are all going through, if you thought 2020 was difficult, right? Just because some government says life is open doesn't change things, because this reality and the way that you think about it is not the way that it works. It's a divine roller coaster we're on, and when it tells you it's taking you here, it's taking you here, and when it tells you it's taking you there, it's taking you there. And we just got out of 6 planets retrograde just in these last couple of weeks, with Mercury that went direct, and it was 5 planets. And Pluto is finally now stationed direct, so now we only have 4 left. But we have Saturn that's going to be coming direct here in between these eclipses and when we come into November. So at least Pluto here, typically I'd say, okay, it's a great thing because it's moving forward and we can start to get things to move forward again in life. But this is a Pluto that's the last Pluto return of America, but it's also a very weird Pluto to station direct right before an eclipse, and it's stationing direct in Capricorn, yet it went retrograde in Aquarius. And this is the longest that anybody that will watch this video, if you were born in the 20th century or the 21st century, especially the very beginning of the 21st century, have ever experienced the Pluto transit and how long it's been in a sign. But the fact that it's stationed direct in Saturn's house, yet it went retrograde in Uranus's house, adds a spark and an unpredictability that is trying to figure itself out. There's a lot of lost energy with Saturn now at 0 degrees Pisces, where it's just going to sit here for the next couple weeks here. On the same time, this is where we are starting to see some pretty difficult aspects. We've been seeing the sun in its fall position, Venus now in its fall position, the South Node, of course, in Libra, dispositing to Venus and Virgo. Venus and Virgo having to deal with a lot. Venus and Virgo hasn't even seen Saturn since 94, 95, right? So this is all these like long time, but of course Saturn, Neptune since 1523. We are in some really odd places here. Chiron, that's in opposition to Mercury. We just saw the sun do that. But Mars, the one planet that literally has been at full speed, not been in shadow. Of course, Mercury's out of shadow, but this is the planet that we've been watching. It was the planet we watched at the beginning of the year because it was retrograde, and it's stationed direct on January 12th in Gemini. And the last time that had happened for a full Mars retrograde through Gemini was from 1943 to 1944 in World War II. But now here's Mars in Scorpio. And this is weirder because this Mars now is hanging around exactly where the last South Node solar eclipse was. Of course, is this a total solar eclipse that's approaching? That's a ring of fire. Technically, no, since you could see a little bit of the ring, but it is potent. We're not even at that chart, but I just want to say that this dark moon, balsamic phase of this moon in Libra, with Pluto now direct, we've seen Mars square Pluto, and when Venus got out of shadow in Leo is right when things happened. And like I said, whether you're on high vibe or not, and I said on horoscopes on here, I said the Venus retrograde cycle that now begins in Leo would be about an invasion. And it's simple. You just look at the Venus retrogrades, whether it's the War of 1812 or 1772, or you go back to 541 and the invasions and the Justinian plague. And I mean, I literally said that this, by the end of this whole cycle, you will see a war invasion, and it happened. So what do we do about that now? Let's take a look at this eclipse. So Friday is remembering, I just want to say this before I go into this horoscope for the solar eclipse and new moon. This Friday, this balsamic phase of the moon is not a time for you to get in weird. You're going to feel at the end of your rope. It's a lot of energy in its fall position. All right. We've got the sun in its fall position, right? We've got Venus in its fall position. It's been nonstop. All these retrogrades really slow. Last year, we had 6 planets retrograde. This year, every planet retrograded this year. And now as it's slowly starting to come back up, it's all this Libra energy that is with the South Node. So it's feeling weak, okay? And it could feel like you want to give up and quit with Pluto that has now come direct in Capricorn. And I just want you to remember that until this solar eclipse hits and Mars crosses exactly 2 degrees, which we're going to see in the days that follow the solar eclipse, it's going to cut off that energy from the last solar eclipse in Scorpio, and you're going to start to see more energy in your life. But this is not a time for you to be so scared on the cliff and on the edge, because Pluto at the last degrees here of Capricorn is the power we find on the cliff, on the edge. It's not the fear that we embrace. We're all taxed. We're all emotionally taxed. We're all feeling like we've been in the chains of Capricorn without much but bread and water, and even the bread's gone moldy. And the same bars that we feel stuck in this reality as they try to shove masks and now religious wars in your face and make you pick a side. We're all tired. The economies of the world are all spoiled. whether that's spoiled in the ideas of how we've been spoiled or that it's spoiled rotten now. We are not in normal times at all. This is a very unbalanced and unstable time. This is about you being okay that things are unbalanced and how you take action and power back in a very not calculated, because I feel like with the South Node, the solar eclipse at 21 degrees here, Mercury opposing Chiron at 17, South Node at 25 degrees of Libra, Mars here at this 1 degree and 44 minutes of Scorpio in its home sign, and the North Node is in Aries, dispositing that with Eris and Chiron. This is not a time to calculate or what is the right move. It is a time about embracing the power that you have within yourself, that life has already thrown all of us at the edge, that it's thrown you at the edge, and it does feel unstable. And there's nothing scarier than being on the edge of a cliff and feeling unbalanced as if you're going to fall. Because then what? You're going to fall off the cliff? This is very Humpty Dumpty. And so this is where we also want to be remembering that our thoughts with the South Node and Mercury, even the fact that this solar eclipse is happening at 21 degrees and it's going to quincunx over to Uranus, I'm not going to give it too much power of a quincunx to Neptune. It's 4 degrees off. But it is quite interesting, though, that Uranus is involved. Of course, the last new moon that we had in Virgo, of course, was trine Uranus. And, of course, the new moon prior in Leo was square Uranus. And that was the moment that my daughter Aurora was born. But I look at this eclipse and I think about how we're trying to intellectualize it all. It can be very difficult during this time, feeling tired, feeling on a lower energy and vibration, because there's just so much that we're trying to understand in the ever-changing Uranian Taurus world, which is an unstable, physical, fixed earth reality. And it's upgrading it, and it has to churn the dirt. You know, it reminds me of, anytime I think of Taurus, I think of a farm. And I always think of Uranus being this tractor that's like, all right, we need to churn the soil to bring more nutrients into it. And so it doesn't seem like we want to do that at first, or tearing down the concrete, you know, like, what do you mean? That's the driveway it's been. It's like, yeah, but it's my brother, he's a surveyor for a living. So, you know, land shifts, things shift in our life, our values shift, and we have to churn things over and repave a lot of our value systems in the collective. And unfortunately, that comes with a lot of mismatches in people's values, and that can create disharmony. You know, a lot of people always think Libra is the sign that's the opposite of war and issues. But, you know, Aries, Libra, it doesn't matter what the opposition is. It's the same color, just two different shades. And so the diplomatic aspect is the illusion right now, that diplomacy is or debate, or you know, throwing shade in legal, or doing these kind of weird things in life are going to settle the problems, or dealing with settlements, titles and deeds, or who owns land and who doesn't, especially with Pluto Capricorn. This is much more of a time for you to just realize that I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. That's what I've been for a long time. I'm a lot of things too. But if I look at it from my standpoint of that part of myself, being at the edge of the cliff is right when you take that leap of faith and that risk. You don't back down. You know, this is a tough one because it could feel numbing. This is not a new moon that is one about bringing some sort of, you know, euphoric element at all. It is one that is looking at a way for you to understand who you are, what you're dealing with, and the simple. Aries is very simple. It's an action. It's a definition of self. And it's avoiding those weird debates in the tent. I'll use a war example since it's Aries, North Node, Chiron. We know Eris is here sitting at 24 degrees, right? Okay. When you're in Aries, that's the soldier. It's the cavalry. It's the masculine that wants to go do the work and go to battle. Libra is where, before that battle takes place, there's deals being made, even the deal of a war. And that's the hidden element of that stuff. And so if a soldier tries to walk in there, it reminds me of the movie Gladiator. It's like Caesar's going to die. He's not going to give it to his son because he knows he's a piece of shit. And he knows that his best general is literally the man to give it to because he treats all of the men good. And he knows he'll give more power to the Senate and more power to the people, and he won't abuse it. But Libra is the calculative aspect with the South Node, especially with Mercury here and the solar eclipse, where this is not a time for you to try and, oh, how do I figure out my life? Especially this quincunx to Uranus. Like, this is not a looking at it from an analytical space or trying to fix the pieces. This is definitely where it's just like the simple aspect. Mars is in Scorpio. You have so much more in the reserve tank than you realize. And it's about the courage to just deal with the situations instead of be like the nobles in Scotland I'm using so many weird movies, Braveheart, who are like always just sitting there with leprosy and we need to do this, but they won't go out there and be fucking William Wallace and just fucking, this is what needs to get done, so let's just go do it. And there's an aspect where some people get caught up into the idea of self-reliance. Self-reliance is spiritual. It's the reliance that I'm going to be the soul that I am, and I'm going to show up to all my relationships as that soul and not put burdens on other people. Right now, this is not a good time for you to try and solve your biggest problems by placing blame on other people, by trying to find the unbalanced energy. Because to be honest with you, it's more just, where are you not stepping up for yourself? We're all right now, I said to High Vibers on Deep Astrology this week, I said, we're all in a space where we're having, it's like the Civil War. It's like where you have to, like, you're going to cut off the leg. That's an edgy moment to survive. Okay, you got salt. Can somebody just give me a piece of wood so I can bite on it? You got to bite that wood right now. This is not a time to try and play funky, Humpty Dumpty, and try and negotiate yourself while the gangrene is starting to smell that it's going to be okay, or that you need to find another solution. It's just a simple solution right now. What needs to be done? And that can be difficult in relationships because we all got to do our shit. We all, especially with Pluto and Capricorn, Mars and Scorpio, this is a great time for finding the power within yourself of doing the shit, whatever it might be that you're feeling that you're frustrated, tired with, or whatever, and finding that reserve tank and just be like, this is all I got to do. Bang. It's not as much as you think it is. It's not as crazy as you might think it is in your life. It's you coming up with an excuse, or you coming up with putting the blame on somebody else, or you trying to always find some sort of way of relief when the relief is within you at the moment right away. And that's what's hard with North Node and Chiron and Aries. And Mercury opposing Chiron during this solar eclipse new moon. The intention on this one to me is like, it's the actions that we don't take, or the philosophies and the ideas that we weigh out or that we try to debate in ourselves as excuses of why we're not doing something that hurts us the most. I know that we're all feeling, not normal. You could feel that the timeline shifted already just as this energy has been coming in since last weekend when Venus came out of shadow. And a lot of this is about how much more simple it really is. Now, are there going to be a lot of events here that are going to shock us? 100% yes. Do our prayers need to be out there? Yes. 100%. And usually I'm the one here to drop some crazy, intense bomb on you. But since I've been doing this work for so long, you always know whether I'm on the lake back 10 years ago, or in my apartment in Hollywood, or on a green screen in my apartment, or at my other old studios, or this studio, or any place I do a horoscope, whether it was in front of the White House or in a trailer, fucking at a jet ski race, or homeless with the laptop on my car that was broken. When it's this extreme, wherever the energy is, I'm going to talk to you in that way. And this is the energy that I'm talking to you in, is that we need to think of it like kindergarten here. Is it really that difficult, whatever you're complaining in your life about? It's an action that you have to take. It's something that you have to, the biggest and most humiliating aspect of this is the part of you that will look back if you choose to put the blame or put some sort of energy as if like, no, this isn't what I need to do. It's what the world needs to do. It's what this country needs to do. It's what this person needs to do. It's what my partner needs to do. It's what this person needs to do. It's always easy to put it outside ourselves right now, especially with even Mars and Scorpio adding to the 8th house flavor. But this is not where it is. The transformation is in the drive and finding that you have way more in your tank than you realize. It's the edge that you've got to find. That the fact that you can even use your brain power to complain right now about the situations means that there's a lot of fuel still in your tank that you don't realize. Because in reality, if you were really that gone, you wouldn't even be able to complain. You wouldn't be able to debate in your head. You wouldn't be able to try and contrast things. And what we're seeing in the world right now is everybody's trying to contrast. Everybody's trying to pick a side. Everybody's trying to find, especially with Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces, and this is what makes, I think, it very difficult, especially as we are near these ending of the ages of Pisces. That when you identify in one specific spiritual domain, you trap yourself. This is Jupiter Uranus. Can this collective open up to other people's values and understand them? It doesn't have to adhere to them. It doesn't have to make them so, but can it be open enough to understand other people's values, or where other people's values are and how valuable they are in humanity and how valuable they are in all ways? This is not a time in the spiritual community to start picking who's the evils and the bads and the goods. This is definitely our moment here as light workers to understand, like, how do we get people to see everybody cool so more events don't happen anymore like they're happening? And we live in a world of cycles. It's the idea of this utopian world that will never, ever go through a cycle again, that, well, you'll probably have another reality you'll go check that out in, but it's not this one exactly until something shifts or the Planet X is found. But the shock value of this is not as extreme as maybe many are taking it. The shock value is going to be more in what you could lose yourself in your head, or pushing blame, or not wanting to face the things that you have to step up to in your life. And so this is really about letting go. A let go always with the solar eclipse at the south node. They're softer. Although when the sun's at its fall position, it's harder. The magnitude of this eclipse is stronger the closer it is to the node here. So hence it's pretty much a total solar eclipse, but it's not. And so if you even take that into consideration, it's a solar eclipse, but it's fully not one. But it is. But it's not. Talk about life right now. And with Venus being in Virgo, and all this energy in Libra and Taurus, so whether it's the South Node, or whether it's the solar eclipse, Sun, Moon, and Mercury, well, we disposit that because in Libra it's to Venus, and Venus is in its fall in Virgo, opposite Saturn, opposite Neptune. And then we disposit to Taurus, and that's where Jupiter and Uranus are. So most of this energy that's around right now is all dispositing Venus, which happens to be in its worst place. And so that, I think, makes it difficult, because whether we look at there's many ways to look at it. I mean, you could look at it as, when you look really close at this eclipse, you could take it as 20, another 25, that 45-degree angle to the eclipse in Libra is a semi-square to Venus in Virgo in its fall position. And that's because Venus just came out of its retrograde cycle, and it still is not at full speed. And so everybody wants the South Node. Nobody wants to do the North Node. I actually like Michael Luton's description of it from, I think it was like UAC in 1987. And he's like, the South Node is chocolate, and the North Node's broccoli. Although in this spiritual community now, most people like eating broccoli, so I got to inverse it. South Node is broccoli, salad, vegan, and the North Node is something you probably need, like some meat that you don't want to have, or some gluten that you're too afraid of, or some sugar that you're too afraid to eat, or some high fructose corn syrup that you're too afraid to have, to live and just be a human being for a second and just whatever. South Node is pulling on us. And so it's easy to take us south, especially when it's in the south. Remember, this is what makes things, especially watching the moon, watching planets like Mars, when they're in the north and the south, you start to see, especially when they get closer to the galactic center or on the opposite side, you start to see them go out of bounds. Now, we're not in anything out of bounds, so it's actually all the stuff happening inbounds right now we need to pay attention to. And I also think with Venus not being at full speed yet, still taking its sweet time, but also it's very real. And Venus and Virgo, its best qualities to me are the ability to be like, well, this isn't that sweet. This isn't fitting right. This doesn't feel good. But not directing that as an aim at some entity or some person, because that's where its fall is. Venus Virgo, its number one issue always is, how do you maintain relationships? How do you maintain, things? I think it's so funny. It's Pisces 7th house, right? So it's like Pisces is so dreamy, but when it comes to the relationships, it's like, no, let me nitpick it. Let me figure, it's like, whoa, okay. But that's the reality, though, is people, relationships are Pisces to keep them in reality. Without relationships, and Capricorn being their 11th house, they would be lost fish. Without a school and without their partnerships, they'd be lost. They wouldn't know where to go. And so when we think of Saturn and Neptune and Pisces right now, and these two, whether we're looking at it from Mars and Scorpio, the dispositor of the North Node that's in its home sign Scorpio, and it's activating Pluto's energy, which Pluto's direct now, and it's in Capricorn, and it's tough. And then there's this Pisces energy where it's like, I just want to give up. Or this could be a very easy time for you to just implode and destroy beautiful relationships that you're building big things with. This is not a time, like I've been saying since last year with the North Node and Uranus conjunct, not a time for burning bridges, although I've never seen so fast. What I would say, because in the last 4 years since 2020, right, coming up 4 years, boy, people started to burn bridges really quick, but it took some time, months, This is in less than 1 week. We have seen people just decide, like, let's burn bridge. Oh my God, you're not this religion, you're not that, oh my God. And so this is not a time to take things out on the people that we love in our life. This is a time to work together, but you have to be your best self. And so the more the triggering is in a relationship, the more that you have to look at, well, have you communicated to yourself yet that relationship of where you as a soul in your relationship with yourself have to see that we're all unbalanced? Can you find that common denominator first? Can you be empathetic and see the other side of the coin? And if you're getting that from another side, then that's a good news. But you have to ask yourself, if you can't see that within yourself and see the empathy of the other side too, why? And it's usually because there's triggers. And this is definitely a time of massive triggers. What we wish another person would be, what we wish another side would be, which is so ironic. The simplicity of Aries and Libra is the ascendant, right? If we were to just take this chart, of course, I used to use Aries ascendant, and then I got over it because I like to show where I'm doing the horoscope, and I do my horoscopes from here. So it's pretty easy to understand, though, what planets are rising for doing a horoscope and how they're going to set and what's going to rise in an evening and stuff like that. I can do it in my head in 1 second. You just look at it. I don't really need a chart either, but you know what I mean? It's just a lot easier. But if we took the example of the ascendant, the idea that that's Mars, it's the horizon. The idea of the horizon is the definition of where we make the actual divisions of the houses. It's the understanding also of how the scope of your life and who you are, and whether you want to call that a defining line in your life. Although it's so interesting to me because it's more of just the horizon. It's a directional horizon. But we have to remember that horizons can be so far and so wide. The descendant, of course, is the opposition to that. And what's so interesting is it's what we're looking at in our horizon that we want. And how do we identify to have what we want? Is we have to identify, first of all, what we are and then what we want. And that's what will come on the other side if we know how to define ourselves. So, this is not a time because, and I have no problem roasting Libras. I know your birthday, but south no, dear, with the solar eclipse. The problem with Libras is they live their life in verbs, not nouns, which is a beautiful thing. It's cute. It's fun. But we can't be living in verbs anymore. Like, what's the problem? I want to be happier. Or it could be an adjective. Or just, I want to be happy. Okay, doing what? I don't know. Just every day I want to be happier. Okay, what does every day look like to you? Define it. And what does happy look like to you? Define it. What's the noun? Person, place, thing. The problem is most people want to sit in the story of the verbs, the adjectives, and all these things of some place that they want it to be changed without just going, okay, well, what's the thing that needs to be done without it being a lack of responsibility of your own responsibility first, because this Pluto in Capricorn that is in square to the solar eclipse and squaring the nodes, with Chiron in Aries sitting on top of the North Node and Chiron opposing Mercury, it's very easy to see that this is a moment where it's like, okay, what's the responsibility that I can do to make a change? It's about looking at your own situation. It's so easy to want help. And I'm not saying that this isn't a time to reach out for help, but it's a lot easier when you found your own life raft and then you need help with, can you adjust it for me? Because we have an identity of what we're adjusting. We're adjusting your life raft. But if you're fucking just in the water, helplessly starving and drowning and don't know what to do, and then you're asking for help for what? Are you just flailing your arms, or are you on an iceberg that you're just kind of chilling on? We don't know. So I'm seeing this in the world. I'm seeing this in so many clients and people right now. It's so simple. This is time to bring it back to simplicity. And also at the same time to not be afraid to own the responsibility in your life and take something more, and that you have more in the tank than you realize. And you could deal with the edge, or God wouldn't have brought you to the edge. What makes people tough enough to handle the next 19 years of Pluto and Aquarius? And every time we go to Pluto Aquarius, which last time, of course, we weren't alive, but then we go to Pluto Pisces, then we go to Pluto Aries, is the longest Pluto stays in signs. And the farther away and deeper and darker it goes. And life slows down. The rest of our lives will never be as fast as it was till we really got to 2008 with Pluto in Capricorn. I know it feels like it's going fast, but the truth is, as far as society and the understandings of change and how fast things are going to change, what you're really seeing is how fast things are being destroyed. Systems. Whether you go to Walgreens or CVS now, whether it's pharmacists on strike, whether you want to get a car now, well, you can't get one. The loans, the rates are too high. The system's falling apart. The auto workers are on strike. Everywhere you go, everybody's striking. In the middle of South Node, what's unfair? And then coming back with something that doesn't meet fairness. It's not a coincidence. Whatever happened, the way that I'm looking at this Pluto Capricorn and this time right now is like, whatever happened to you just working your fucking ass off and being the best and getting higher in position to where you wouldn't even need to be in a union because maybe they bring you on as the owner, or maybe they make you a CFO, or maybe they make, why are you complaining? This is all about the world of complainers, the world of who thinks that things are unfair. And that's not a world for you to be in. This is about you letting that go. And if you want some insight in your relationship world, we'll go back to 2004 and 2005 when we started to see that South Node eclipses that were in Libra in 2004 and 2005. It was also the same time we were going into war in Iraq. Was that fair to that what we did to Saddam Hussein? Was he a bad person? Probably, yeah. But did he really have weapons of mass destruction? No. Was that a fair trial? No. But what were the lessons that you learned? If you're somebody right now, I don't even want to, you know what? Because we're all releasing on this. I think South Node solar eclipses are very much like a weird inverted version of looking at a full moon and a release. But look at your relationships. Like, were you bitch whipped? Were you just trying everything to make everything okay, instead of just like being you, and the people that are in your life, they're going to love you by you just being you and taking care of your own shit. But when you're chasing down and trying to help people all the time to make them feel better, they'll never be happy enough. That was a big lesson I learned in 2004 and 5. And I'm blessed that I had that lesson. But I remember the pain and the hurt when you're sitting and waiting for a phone call back and it doesn't come, and then they're with somebody else. But you're still bitch whipped enough to fucking still take the call. 2 days, 4 years later, whatever it might be, right? That's not healthy shit. So keep it simple. And we're all feeling with this eclipse opposing Chiron. With Mars and Scorpio, though, to me, it's like, are you going to just complain and It's more like complain, get it out, and let's do something about it and let's go. Instead of let's just sit here and complain about it and not do anything about it and try and get in a long tent debate for it to go nowhere. You really think negotiation talks right now for people that are hostages are going to go well right now? With all this Libra South Node? Where are they? This also reminds me of traps. Don't end up in a trap. I think of 300,000 troops. I think of Dunkirk. I think of the Gaza Strip as a 300,000 person trap. I think of the beach as Dunkirk. That's all I'll say about that. Let's see what's card-wise for this new moon. So I hope that helps you. Usually I'm a lot more spunky for these, but it's a pretty extreme time, and I know that we're all in this together, going through the shit, and we have to find out. Again, this is not through something that you find out through putting blame or compare and contrast on the outside. It's inside going, what do you mean? Like, what's my issue? Like, let me just. Okay, I complained, but I got this. This is the time where the only people that you should be around in your life are people that support you no matter what, and that love you no matter what, and fucking are very clear and easy to go, and they know, and they're strong people in themselves. This is the time where weak people try to pull people in and create victim situations. And it's easy for strong people to get pulled in right now into weak people. And the best thing that you can do is, be positive. But to be honest, a lot of people out there right now can't handle the truth. They can't handle the responsibility. They can't handle the cliff. They can't handle the identification of who they are. I think Rick Levine has said it best. We do the astrology panel every year at Conscious Life Expo, and it was last year in 2022. He said, the collective is just schizophrenic now, And it's sad because it's a misidentification of things, situations, and we're living in a world where people are identifying off a program. They're identifying off what it should look like, and what all this stuff is not written in some book. I guess some people follow that kind of life. But it's the masterpiece that you already are, and all the gifts that you already have, and this is retrieving the treasure and the power that's in that treasure that you already are. And just pushing through the block that you're the one seeing the block. It's not so much about that outside, whatever it might be. It's the block within you that you need to see with yourself first. Because it's super easy to try and draw in. And this is one of those charts and one of these times where, guess what? If you're a weak person, you're going to want people to do it all for you and you not do anything. And they're never going to be able to do it the way you want it. So get over that. It's not easy. The toughest and the strongest people in this world, we don't expect much from people. We love them for who they are. We don't get mad at them for stupid shit. We don't plot revenge. We don't plot, how can I get them? How can I make it? This is where you're going to edge yourself into the darkness and fall off, because nobody's going to pick up your hand, especially if you're going to be spitting in people's faces without realizing that you're spitting in people's faces by the fact that you won't deal with something in yourself. And you won't find the power in yourself, you won't find the identity, and you've got a wound of an identity issue. So this North Node Chiron is super rare. And this North Node Chiron is bringing up identity issues, strength issues with people like not taking action. And it's always the person that's doing exactly what you want to be doing that you want to throw shade on, and that's never going to work. It's not like... And you know what? Like, this is hard because I was somebody who fell for that shit in 2004 and 2005. And I've been a worker my whole life, you know? And so, boy, did I chase down the most helpless people. My mom even said on MTV when I was in these eclipses, and I filmed Parental Control with my dad and my mom in 2005 during the eclipses. This same, more similar one. My mom said that I love to rescue people. And I'll never forget that. And I can tell you that this is where you got to turn that part off of you. Like, you're not here to rescue somebody. You're here to be aligned with people and work things out and understand and you know, fuck yeah, I got your back and whatever you need. And also understanding that right now nobody's in any position to even be in a spot that they want to be in their perfect idea of reality and life. And it's easy to nitpick everything and it's easy to see all the flaws. And this is just not that time. This is where it's like, hey, I know you're going to get through it. I can be there when I can be there in this way, but nobody's going to be able to be there fully and coddle you the way that you might want to get coddled. Chiron North Node, erase every other planet, erase the sign. Just North Node Chiron is a life where nobody will ever coddle you the way that you want to. You will never be understood fully the way that you want to. You will never get what you fully want the way you want to. It's a sacrifice. It's the learning that you end up being the guide. And the guide is the one that doesn't get what it seems at first is fair, or that it's accepted, or it's the odd one, or it's the weirdo, or why do I, right? And it looks at Chiron's journey is so harsh. What do you think the human being's journey is? It's a harsh one. This is the hardest place to come, but it comes with the biggest rewards, and that's Chiron. And it's that you get to become the guide that even all the immortals look to you to be a guide, because you're the only immortal that went to mortality and then back. So we have to remember that. Are you trying to be all immortal on somebody that's in a mortal moment when we're actually all in a mortal moment and we all know that we can be immortal at the same time? Think of it that way. Especially when everybody's emotions are blocked. It's hard to feel them right now. It's numbing. It's a time there's been so much weight on our souls, and we're releasing it through these eclipses that are going to be here this next month. And with Saturn stationing direct by November, and as we get into 2024 with Pluto and Aquarius for most of the year, we're going to be in a whole different world. So why would you screw it up right now? And why would you give up right now? And I don't think of a better blessing for cutting off attachment karma or forcing desires or forcing what you want and thinking that other people will do things from force, and being demanding without love, or doing things without compassion, or doing things without understanding where people are with empathy. Like, it's not going to work. Like, we're so lucky that Mars is crossing over exactly where the solar eclipse with the South Node was last year on the 25th of October. While we're in an eclipse now in Libra, it's quincunx Uranus and it's squaring Pluto and on its way to quincunx Neptune and put us into all three outer planet aspected in a weird way. So we're dealing with that we are not in Kansas anymore. So you have to stop trying to put people like as if they're in Kansas and they got their shit running like if it's perfect. Nothing is. That's the problem with South Node Libra and a Venus that's disposited in Virgo. It's nitpicking off imperfected shit. You can do that for like fucking hours and years and months and it still won't be perfect. So why even go down those roads? Well, we got the Hangman reversed. So are things really as stuck as you think they are? I think that this is the perfect way to look at it. It's not. You've been observant, you've been seeing things, but at the same token, You have to really think like, you know what? Am I holding myself, hanging myself here? You know, it's a great moment because I feel like this is a moment where we've gotten so much observation, but we can almost overdo that. And I think it's more about just like, let me get back on and do the thing I got to do. And let me take the responsibility in my life. And, you know, let me also use this strong energy for good. If I'm going to help people, it's going to be with, I understand you, I got your back, and making sure that those other people are saying it back. That was the biggest lesson I learned in 2004 and 5. I was saying, I got your back, I'll do everything, and I would do everything, and people wouldn't do it back. And instead of feeling unfair, I just kept showing up like that till finally at the end of the transit, and the universe was just like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I thought you should have learned your lesson. I'm like, well, I did now. Ace of Pentacles. Yeah, this is a great moment. I know that it doesn't feel that way, but it is opening up a new door. And it's a door that you've already been building towards. Things are much more positive than you might seem. When you get out of your own prison, you get out of your own trying to observe it all too much, or trying to understand it all too much, or trying to nitpick it too much, or trying to fucking feel like you're stuck when really it's what you do, it's what you create, it's the understanding of the value. You don't understand value when you're stuck or lost. You forget the value of things, and sometimes you remember the value of things. Like if you're in the fog, you wish you had a flashlight. More importantly, you wish that it was sunny. But the way the universe works is we got to wait for those moments in time, and Libra, and with Venus and Virgo here, and this eclipse energy, and Mars and Scorpio, it's like we want it to be sunny when it's foggy, and we want it to be foggy when it's sunny, and you want it now, and then you blame every aspect outside of yourself instead of dealing with what's in front of you, and it will get to that sunny day or that foggy day or whatever the day is that you want. The more that you just keep doing that. And we need to maintain bridges right now instead of burn bridges, because these last, this year coming up, 2024 into 25, these last 2 years here of this Uranus Taurus, it gets so shaky. It gets so unstable. And we all have to lock arms, and we have to be there for each other to make it through. And so this would be just the most detrimental aspect in your life, to destroy and to truly destroy things off, just psychological issues that you are having with your own identity, and the inability to, see that wearing the idea that you are some sort of victim doesn't go anywhere. It's what you do with it in a positive way that you do on your own. It's not what you expect others to do. I appreciate you all very much. Of course, Battle of the Gods Part 2. Super excited. I can finally fully release all of it that has been bridging all of those things together, from shadow reality to purgatory to age of deception to all of it. If you happen to be in the SoCal area, I do have tickets in person for just my lecture. That's all I'm doing. And for those that want to experience it in person, of course, it's more set up here at the studios for a big live stream event, but with all the cameras and so forth, and the projector and all that. But yeah, it's a badass stage. Of course, the studio's here. It's cool. Not expecting a huge audience, but those are available too. But it's only $20, or if you're a premium subscriber on High Vibe TV. Thanks so much. I appreciate you all. I'm wishing you the best, and I was going to say stay safe, but I was going to say stay responsible, play by the rules. This is Pluto at the end of Capricorn, and it's keeping tallies on how you act, how you are, and be an adult, and do your damn thing, and encourage others instead of looking at what's wrong with everybody else. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you on the next one. Adios.